There's a specific, terrifying kind of loneliness that hits you in the middle of a crowded room. You can have 1,000 followers online, a loving family at dinner, and a team of colleagues at work, yet still feel an absolute, crushing isolation. It is the sinking suspicion that no one, not your spouse, not your best friend, not your parents, truly understands the specific weight you are carrying in your chest. We are told to be independent. We are told to be the architects of our own destiny. But in the quiet moments, when the noise of the world fades, there is a desperate, primal longing for something else. A longing for a witness. A longing for a hand that doesn't just hold ours, but pulls us out of the quicksand. In the ancient Sanskrit text of the Bhagavad Gita, there is a promise that cuts through thousands of years of history to address this exact feeling. The verse is explicit, "Na me bhakta pranashyati," my devotee never perishes. But what does that actually mean? Is it just poetic comfort for ancient people, or is it a hard, tangible reality that you can access right now in the 21st century? Today, we are not just reading scripture. We are deconstructing the psychology of divine support. We are going to look at 3 specific case studies: a warrior having a panic attack, a lover in agonizing separation, and a group of women defying social norms to prove that you are being held even when you feel like you are falling. Let's transport you to a piece of land in northern India, roughly 5,000 years ago. The air smells of iron, sweat, and dry dust. The noise is deafening, conches blowing, drums beating, horses stamping. This is Kurukshetra. And in the center of this chaos sits Arjuna, the greatest archer of his time. But he isn't fighting, he is crumbling. This is not just a moment of hesitation. It is a full-blown physiological breakdown. The texts describe his symptoms with clinical precision. His limbs are trembling. His mouth is dry. His hair is standing on end. And the legendary bow, Gandiva, is slipping from his sweat-slicked hands. He is having a panic attack. Why? Because he is paralyzed by a moral deadlock. On the other side of the line, he sees his grandfather. He sees his teachers. He sees the people who raised him. Duty demands he fight. Love demands he drop his weapon. He is torn apart by the conflict between his head and his heart. This is a feeling, you know. It is the moment you have to fire a friend to save the company. It is the moment you have to leave a toxic relationship that still feels like home. It is the paralysis of choice. Now, watch what Krishna does. He is sitting right there, holding the reins of the chariot. He doesn't start by lecturing Arjuna. He doesn't say, "Man up." He doesn't hand him a weapon. First, he simply holds the space. He allows the collapse to happen. This is the first layer of divine support, the witness. But then he shifts gears. He begins to deconstruct Arjuna's reality. He doesn't just give orders. He changes the lens through which Arjuna sees the world. He explains that the grief Arjuna feels is based on a temporary illusion, the idea that we are these bodies, that death is the end, that we are the sole doers of our actions. Krishna elevates Arjuna's mind from the muddy ground of immediate emotion to the stratospheric view of eternity. This is the friendship aspect of God. A true friend doesn't just comfort you, a true friend wakes you up. Krishna acts as the externalization of Arjuna's higher intelligence. He reminds him that his dharma, his duty, is not about what he wants, but about what the universe needs from him in that moment. When you are stuck, Krishna's support often comes not as a miracle that fixes the problem, but as a clarity that allows you to fix it. He is the voice in your head that says, "You can do this," when everything else says you can't. By the end of their conversation, Arjuna picks up his bow. The war hasn't changed. The enemies are still there, but Arjuna has changed. He is no longer fighting for victory. He is fighting as an instrument of the divine. But sometimes we don't need a commander. We need something softer. We need to understand the heart. This brings us to the second case study, the groves of Vrindavan and the figure of Radha. If Arjuna represents the active life of duty, Radha represents the internal life of emotion. Her story introduces us to a concept that is almost paradoxical to the modern mind, viraha, or love in separation. In the narrative, Krishna eventually leaves the village of Vrindavan to fulfill his duties as a king. He leaves Radha behind. On the surface, this looks like a tragedy. It looks like abandonment. You might look at your own life, at the prayers that seem unanswered, at the silence where you expect a sign and think God has left the building. But the theology of Radha flips this narrative upside down. The sages explain that in the physical absence of Krishna, Radha's internal focus on him became so intense that it surpassed the joy of physical union. Every moment became a meditation. The pain of separation was like a fire that burned away every other thought, leaving only the pure, distilled essence of love. This teaches us something profound about the silence of God. When you feel distant from the divine, that distance is not an emptiness. It is a vacuum created to draw you in deeper. It is an invitation to seek harder. Radha's love was unconditional. It wasn't, "I love you because you are here." It was, "I love you because you are." This is the blueprint for a deeper connection. It suggests that our longing, our crying out, our feeling of missing God is, in itself, the highest form of connection. The support here isn't a hand holding yours. It is the gravity that keeps you in orbit, even when you can't see the planet. It transforms your heartbreak into a spiritual engine. Finally, we have to address the fear of insignificance. We live on a planet with 8 billion people. It is easy to feel like a rounding error in the grand calculation of the universe. Why would God care about my mortgage? Why would He care about my sick parent? I'm just one person. To answer this, we look at the Rasa Lila, the dance of divine love. The story goes that on a moonlit autumn night, the gopis, the simple cowherd women of the village, heard Krishna's flute. They dropped everything. They left boiling milk on the stove, they left their families, they ran into the forest. This was a radical, rebellious act of prioritizing the soul over society. When they arrived, they all wanted to dance with Krishna. They all wanted to hold his hand. But there was only one Krishna and hundreds of gopis. So, what did he do? He didn't choose the best dancer. He didn't choose the most beautiful one. He expanded himself. The texts describe a mystical geometry where Krishna manifested a duplicate form of himself between every two gopis. As the circle spun, every single woman looked to her side and saw Krishna dancing only with her. She felt the warmth of his hand. She saw the attention in his eyes. He created a private, exclusive reality for each individual within the collective. This is the ultimate rebuttal to the fear of being just a number. It is a theological demonstration of infinity. Because God is infinite, He doesn't have to divide His attention. He multiplies it. When you pray, you are not waiting in a queue. You are not on hold. You are in a direct, exclusive channel to Krishna. You are the only person in the room. The support He offers is bespoke. It is tailored to your specific trauma, your specific joy, and your specific personality. Just as He was a warrior for Arjuna and a lover for Radha, He becomes exactly what you need Him to be. So, where does this leave us? It leaves us with a toolkit for survival. When you are paralyzed by a decision, you call upon the Krishna of Arjuna, the guide who sharpens your intellect and points you toward your duty. When you feel lonely and abandoned, You remember the Krishna of Radha, understanding that the longing you feel is the tether connecting you to him. And when you feel small and insignificant, you remember the Krishna of the gopis, the God who expands himself to hold your hand personally. The verse, "My devotee never perishes," is not a guarantee that you won't face pain. Arjuna still had to fight a bloody war. Radha still had to endure separation. The promise is not the absence of storm, it is the presence of an anchor. It is the assurance that no matter how dark the night gets, you are never, ever walking through it alone. The hand is already there. You just have to reach out and grab it.